Charlie was a slightly awkward art museum curator who believed in calculated moves. When he first saw Emma in a Boston coffee shop, he didn't just walk up to her. He waited for her to step away, photographed the cover of the book she was reading, memorized the author's bio online, and only then approached to flash his simulated erudition. The initial charm offensive failed on a technicality. Emma was deaf in one ear and wearing an earbud in the other. She hadn't heard a single word of his rehearsed monologue. But the sheer absurdity of the situation amused her. When his lie inevitably unraveled on their first real date, she found his desperation charming. 2 years later, they were deep in the machine. They were the picture-of-the-month couple, completely unaware of the shelf life of their own happiness. The fracture occurred during a routine pre-wedding dinner with their closest friends, Mike and Rachel. Over glasses of wine, a joke about sneaking out after. The rules were simple. Everyone had to confess the single most amoral or shameful act from their past. Mike went first, admitting that when a stray dog attacked him and his ex-girlfriend, he used her as a human shield. Rachel confessed that as a child, she locked a special needs boy inside a forest cabin, triggering a massive overnight. Then it was Emma's turn. With quiet, clinical regret, she dropped a bomb into the center of the table. In her youth, fueled by isolation and an all-consuming hatred for the world, she had spent months meticulously planning a mass shooting at her high school. Charlie tried to laugh it off, waiting for the punchline. It never came. Instead, Emma explained that her partial deafness wasn't a congenital defect. It was the result of permanent acoustic trauma from practicing with her father's rifle in the woods. The silence at the table was immediate and absolute. Rachel, whose cousin was confined to a wheelchair due to a school shooting, left the table in disgust. The weight of the confession hit Emma all at once. She vomited directly onto the table, bringing the evening to an abrupt, chaotic end. The reality, as revealed through old video diaries, was worse. Emma hadn't abandoned her plan out of a sudden moral awakening. She was stopped by a bizarre twist of fate. Another teenager had shot up a local mall that exact same week, killing one of her classmates. Witnessing the raw, unpolished grief of the community shook her. In a desperate bid for conformity and survival, she immediately joined an anti-gun activist group. In her mind, because she never pulled the trigger, she was innocent. The past was just a dark shadow that had long since dissolved. For Charlie, the days leading up to the wedding devolved into a clinical study in paranoia. He looked at his fiancée and realized he was sleeping next to a stranger with a high potential for violence. He quietly deleted his wedding speech from his laptop. He threw away a coffee mug decorated with a handgun graphic, unable to tolerate any weapon imagery in his house. Emma noticed the missing mug. She had already given him an ultimatum. Be honest and walk away now if this was a deal-breaker. But Charlie chose the coward's path. He lied, assuring her his feelings hadn't changed, while simultaneously adopting the tone of an intrusive therapist, trying to dissect her childhood trauma to rationalize her past. His anxiety quickly manifested physically. During a moment of sudden intimacy in his car, Charlie found himself completely paralyzed by stress, his psychological gear shift stuck in park. Seeking an escape from the suffocating tension, Emma suggested they play a game, pretend to be total strangers meeting for the first time. Charlie refused. It was then that Emma confessed she had found the gun mug in the trash. She knew he was lying to her. The dominoes fell rapidly from there. Rachel called to back out as bridesmaid. Charlie met with Mike and Rachel in a desperate bid to defend Emma, spinning a narrative that thousands of teenagers in a gun-obsessed culture have dark thoughts without acting on them. But the defense collapsed when he discovered Emma had already spitefully kicked Rachel off a joint work project. Desperate for a perspective outside his collapsing echo chamber, Charlie questioned his museum colleague, Misha, asking how she would react if her partner had once planned a school shooting. Misha's answer was immediate. Call the police. People like that don't change. That's just how psychopaths operate. The brutal honesty broke Charlie. He broke down in tears, blamed it on wedding nerves, and in a moment of absolute vulnerability, kissed Misha. He was on the verge of full betrayal, but backed out at the last second, terrified of adding another mistake to the pile. The wedding day arrived, thick with unspoken resentment. During the reception, Emma's father delivered a toast, fondly recalling how his daughter rebelled by becoming an anti-gun activist and even ended up in a police station. The irony forced a bitter, mocking laugh out of Rachel that echoed across the hall. Panicking, Charlie cornered the father, frantically asking if there were still firearms in their family home. The final blow didn't come from the past, but from the present. Emma, hiding in the restroom to calm her nerves, overheard Misha discussing a school shooting with another guest. Assuming Rachel had leaked her secret, Emma confronted Misha. Misha, completely misreading the confrontation, assumed Charlie had confessed to everything. She spilled the entire truth: the kiss, Charlie's emotional breakdown, and the bizarre hypothetical argument about school shooters that triggered it. When the time came for the wedding speeches, the illusion died completely. Emma refused to speak. Charlie took the microphone and delivered a rambling, incoherent monologue that quickly shifted from vows into a public apology to Misha. Misha's boyfriend didn't bother asking questions. He walked up to the podium and leveled Charlie with a heavy punch to the jaw. Charlie returned to his empty apartment alone, sporting a bruised face. Stripped of his tuxedo, he went through the motions of their rehearsed first dance by himself, his calls to Emma going straight to voicemail. With nowhere left to go, he drove to the diner they had planned to visit after the wedding. He sat alone at a table, nursing his order, when the door opened. Emma walked in. She didn't sit with anger. Instead, she ordered her food, sat across from him, and looked at his bruised face through tears. "Hi, I'm Emma," she said, her voice trembling as she wiped away a tear, pretending they had never met. Charlie looked at the woman who had almost ruined a school and who had just ruined their life. He decided to play along. "I live nearby," he replied, weaving a ridiculous fabricated story about how he got his bruises protecting a mother and child from a madman. They sat in the quiet light of the diner, two total strangers, attempting to build a new lie on top of the smoking ruins of their old life.